Hey, welcome to another episode of Positive Solutions for Life. Hey, this is a special episode. It is my 100th episode for my podcast, and I am so excited because I have brought Bobbie back. Bobbie is the one that got me all started with this podcast thing a year ago. She helped me get my ducks in a row. She helped me get it lined up. She showed me the ropes because she has had a podcast for, oh my gosh, I don't know how long now, 5 years, Bobbie.
5 years.
So she taught me the ropes. And also, this is like really close to the 1 year anniversary. So we're going to celebrate today with 100th episode. Woohoo! Yay,
Woohoo!
yay. And 1 year of being a podcast, Positive Solutions for Life. So I'm really excited. Bobbie, what do you have to say? Do you have anything on like 1 year? I mean, to me, it's really exciting. You've been doing this for 5 years as a podcast, but we're going to look back on a year and see what does that even bring to mind for you?
Well, first of all, congratulations. I think for you and for anybody out there that's thinking about a podcast or thinking about something to like level up their life or their business, the trick was just starting. And
Mhm.
you started and you ran with it and you've just been crushing it ever since. I mean, I looked at the stats too. I think you're in like 25 countries now. Like, you're growing and showing up and your newsletter comes in and you're just, you should be very proud of yourself. I hope you are. Um, it's a lot to celebrate.
It is, it is. And yeah, and just you just reminded, oh yeah, yeah, I did start a newsletter too. Okay, like I'm just like, I think it's just fun to like look back over the year. And I'll just start off, but I do want to, include you on this because there's everybody has a year in review. Like, can you look back over a year and like what has changed in your life over the past year? And for me, obviously, it is this podcast. I decided to start it. And I started with one episode a week where I was just talking about whatever I wanted to talk about, whatever topic. And then that was like July of last year. And that was just right around this time that this is being aired. And then come September, I was like, you know what? Or even before that, it wasn't even like 6 weeks. And I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of talking to myself. So everybody, a lot of people have guests on their podcast. So why not? So I started asking around for people that I knew, hey, would you like to be on my podcast? And these are people like you, Bobbie, that I have met in courses or programs. And so some of my first people on were people that I had met in Dr. Ben Hardy's program group about his 10X is easier than 2X book. And so then it just grew. I look back on the groups that I was with you, with Knowledge Brokers, with Tony Robbins and Dean Graciosi, and picked out some of those people that I had still made in contact with, had them on, ask them to, hey, suggest other people that might be involved, I'd love to be on the podcast. And so we did that. And now I'm just reaching out and looking for people that I think would, have some good things to say about some of just the general topic of positive solutions for life, which is transforming your mind and body from the inside out. So this has been wonderful. And I'm just rambling. So this is just a rambling show today.
It's a conversation
It
and
is a
it's a ramble.
conversation.
And what just showed up in my head, and I saw recently, like you had one of the co-authors from our book,
Mhm,
you had Marie not too long ago, and thinking about here we are in 2024, we're
mhm.
past the halfway point, right? Or right
Yep,
around the halfway
yep.
point, and we're still reaping the rewards of 2020 is
Mhm.
the best way
Yeah.
I know how to say it. That was such a game changer for me because
Mhm,
being able to give attention to the communities that you were talking about
mhm.
and learn how to network virtually and create these freaking friendships that
Yeah.
are for the ages. Like there's always going to be Peggy in my life. I know that.
Yes, I know. I'm like, oh, Bobbie, like even if it's been months. Hey, what are you up to? Like, I just need
Yes.
my fix.
So just that alone, and I think the tie-in to positive solutions for life is we talk about being around the people that like lift us up and we start choosing who we're spending time and energy with. And it's just a testament to that. We have better lives when we're living positively and in alignment. People who read books, people who go on podcasts, people who are
Mhm.
trying new things, people who are putting in the work. So
Right.
that part's beautiful too.
Yeah, I know. It's just like, well, this is a 1 year answer anniversary of the podcast, but really it's like a 4 year anniversary of us meeting, It's like
Kind of is,
and
yeah.
it is, and it's like how you shift from different things in your life and moving forward, and creating new friendships that can last, even though honestly, we have never met in person. We've kind of been close, but
We
we
tried.
haven't, but someday it'll happen,
It
right?
will.
It'll happen. So I just wanted to give like a few stats on like where I have been over the last year with this podcast. So like you mentioned, it's been in 26 different countries. I looked at that. I was like, oh my gosh, like, wow, that's amazing. We've had over 3,000 listeners with 50,000 downloads. And so it's
Beautiful.
just, the top 10 episodes have, and the more the episodes are there, the more they're going to get downloaded. So it's been over 1,000 downloads, on some of the early ones. And so I'm proud of that. I don't know in the podcast world whether those are good stats, but for me, I'm celebrating them because I'm still here and I'm still doing it. So I added a guest, like I said, in September. So I have 2 episodes a week. So that's how I got to 100 at this point. It's been fun to interview different people. I mean, it has been, I've co-authors of books like yourself, and you mentioned Marie and Carol, and there's been some others. A lot of who I interview are like coaches, so life coaches, resilience coaches. I mean, anything to do with transforming your mind and body. So it was health and wellness and mindset and goals and all of that. I do some book summaries if I get behind on getting podcast guests, but I also love to read books. And I was looking at, I've given 10 book summaries over this past year. And I'm like, oh, well, check the box for reading a book a month
Yeah.
because I've actually read more than that, but I've only, gave summaries on 10 of them so far. So I'm like, great, I can check that bucket off my list too and keep that going. I just like, and you know what? It's interesting, the comments for the book summaries. There have been so many people that have really enjoyed those. So I didn't know how well those were going to get received, but I just put my own twist on those. So that's kind of the stats in a nutshell on that. And I'm just excited about continuing for this next year.
Well, I think we talked about this probably a year ago that most people don't make it past 14 episodes. So there's a perseverance. And then when you throw in things like doing the book summary and testing it and seeing, like let the audience decide. They'll tell us. They'll
Yeah,
tell us if they want us alone or with people or what they want us
right.
talking about. They're not bashful. Um, so there's so much good stuff in what you said there. And I love the lens of celebration. That's actually how we start our day now. Like I
Mhm.
message a friend every day and we list off what we're celebrating from the day before.
Yeah,
Um, because it's work.
it
Even if it's
is.
fun, it's still work. And we need to notice these things. So calling
Right.
out how much has happened in a year is just a
Yeah.
beautiful concept.
And how that like transforms other things. So I started with the podcast and then it was like, well, a newsletter, blogs. So now I have a website up. It's pretty simple, but it does the trick. Gets people to see where I'm at, what I'm up to. So the website has the latest episodes. It has blog posts in there, how to get a hold of me. I've even done speaking engagement. I was a mental health therapist for 20 years, so I just like, yeah, I'll do that. And I ended up spending more time on it, but it was me. It was very well received. It was on basically normalizing mental health and the awareness of it. And I did put those clips, however poorly audio it was. I just recorded it when I did the presentation to a live audience, and it was included in 4 of the episodes over the last year. So it has opened up doors, is kind of what I'm saying, is like you just progress. But I would really love to hear from you, Bobbie. Like when you look at your year in review, like over the past year, what kind of things have you found yourself like up leveling, or what are you doing different now than a year ago?
Well, a year ago, I didn't even know a brick and mortar store was going to happen. And I had one of those fork in the roads in September, and it was like either go back to corporate America or figure it out. Right. So we opened the store in November. So we just passed our 6-month milestone. Since then, I've hosted, God, 50 plus events, everything from, sip and paint to all the things.
Mhm.
I've still been interviewing guests for the podcast. Honestly, I'm not as caught up as I would like to be as you are. I have 2 rules now. Guests and marketing are my 2 focuses, right? So if
Mhm.
if it
Yep.
I could be here and there's a customer that wants to come in and learn about non-alc and all the cool things we do, that
Hmm.
takes priority. Um, I just got back from filming a television show,
Wow.
um, where it was entrepreneurial based, and learned some things. And again, created a nice healthy to-do list off of that. Tried out for Shark Tank for the second time.
Nice.
Partnered with a college where I got to go serve drinks for Nurses Appreciation Week,
Oh,
join
cool.
the Chamber of Commerce, have the Secretary of State coming to my birthday party next month.
Wow.
Like, so many things that, and I write down my goals quite a bit.
Hmm.
And most of these were not on my goals. They're just like doing the things that I love to do, showing up. Um,
Hmm.
and then there's like wins that are just fun for me. Like, I got to work and help out the florist next door for 2 days
Wow.
during Valentine's Day. I know
Nice.
that sounds like, well, how important is that? But I have the best neighbors on my street here, best business neighbors.
Hmm.
Um, so like partnering in those kind of ways.
Hmm.
And then, tripping and falling on my face quite a bit. Um, I think I know sometimes more than I really do know. I thought I was opening a place about recovery, but I'm really not. It's about community, it's about wellness, it's about positive attitude. I'm getting very clear on who I do and don't want in my store in life. Um, because it goes back to that, who do we
Hmm.
surround ourselves with?
Yep.
Um, and even the learning, right? I'm very mindful now after all those years, like going back to 2020, it was very easy to consume a lot of
Hmm.
data.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there's so much good stuff out there. Like literally I could do learning as my full-time job,
Yeah.
but that isn't what's going to pay the bills.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so now it's just like execute,
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, back last fall was the last time I traveled until recently. But even that, like going to the Carolinas and seeing my favorite band and connecting with in person with someone I met in a different entrepreneur group.
Right.
Um, I think you said we started June 16th, right? Is that what you said? June
Yeah,
15th?
around June. Yeah, the middle of June. Yep.
So when I went on my last trip last summer where I went on my recovery retreat and stuff, I held a snake to push through some fear. I went on a helicopter ride to get over my fear of heights. I had a meeting with a coach in a vortex and did some spiritual work. And it's not just one domain of our life, in my opinion, that we have to work on to be
Yep.
whole and happy.
Yep.
Um, so it was a lot of like, okay, did the work. And that's probably what gave me that. And Grant Cardone, I mean, my business boyfriend has this saying, commit first, figure the rest out later.
Yeah.
And that could be said with your podcast, with me opening
Yep.
the store.
Yep.
Like, that's what makes the winners winners, right?
Hmm. Yep. We don't have to have it all figured out before we get started. You
We
just need
surely
to
don't.
know the first next step. The first
Exactly.
next step for me was, hey, Bobbie, can you help me out?
Yeah,
Like, and so there we go. First next step.
that's it. And your thank you card was so sweet, by the way. It was like so like needed the day it showed up, and it just warmed my heart. So thank you for that personal
You're
touch and made
welcome.
my heart happy.
You're welcome. And I like the personal touch too, just a little bit, just like, oh, I'm thinking about you even months after we, did a show, just to say hi, because it's been an impactful piece of all of my guests have been very impactful. It's like, oh, you talked about the learning. It's like, oh my gosh, each one of my guests, they have something special that I could learn more from. And it's like, oh, I really, really would love to spend the time, doing your thing. But I have to kind of like, what is your goals? What is my goals? What is most important to me right now? And so, rating that back, we did a lot of learning back in 20. Oh, I got a fly in my house right now.
I see that. He's trying to
um,
be the third guest, huh?
yes, they're trying to like land on my screen here. So we all tried to learn a lot, I feel like, at least you and I did, and some of the groups that we were in 2020 when we just had to do everything virtual. But now we're implementing some of those things that we really wanted to do. And they're going, they're going
Yeah,
great.
you just reminded me. We went on book tour too. We
Oh
went,
yeah.
we did a 2-state book tour. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot that somehow we figure out how to ram in there.
Right.
But as you were talking, Peggy, I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What would you like to say a year from now
Yeah.
that has happened or that you want to happen?
Well, good thing. I mean, vibes are going, because that was kind of the next direction. I was going to say to you, like, hey, what's in the works for the next year? Well, for me, I want to kind of continue to grow. Yes, I don't want to. I am going to continue to grow this podcast in different ways, but I'm also like you. I am in the process of co-authoring a book, a collaborative book. So I'm one of 10 authors in a book that's coming out this fall. So we're in the process right now of getting the drafts in. We had meetings for, how to write your bio, and, just the little technical things that need to happen. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about getting out there to present some more things, to be a speaker, in some more groups. So and last year I had one daughter that just got married. I have another wedding in the works for another daughter, so kids stuff is going to be, you know, up there. I got two in upper elementary, middle school, and in college and beyond. So I'm sure there are things that I'm not even going to think about that are going to happen this next year. But anything that does happen is going to be wonderful.
That's a great perspective. I'm sure it will be.
How about
Um,
you?
so, oh boy, the place I'm in my head this moment is kind of interesting because that's exactly what I'm trying to sort out. Trying to stay a little in the present and figure out I have a ton of puzzle pieces laid out, right?
Yep.
What goes first? Like the borders, I feel like are built, but do I put the pinks with the pinks and the purples with the purples? Do I, you know, there's a lot to sort through. And the information I was just given is because I had studied to go, I knew it was on the radar, but is it all right, I see even my brain is too big right now for this conversation with all the thoughts. But there's something very interesting in the work that I'm doing now. It's if anybody out there's read that Blue Ocean and Red Ocean
Mhm.
that Russell recommends. So I'm in a blue ocean in the sense of there's less than 300 non-alcoholic bottle shops around. Never mind throwing in no gambling and no kids, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm one and only. So there's an education piece, right, to get people caught up. And then there's all this weird stuff in the background, like liquor people have rules, but non-liquor people don't have rules. They're like, we're not regulated and things. And then there's big players who are already in with liquor distributors and little players who are trying to get in. And eventually, like 5 years from now, this is going to look very different.
Mhm.
Most of
Yeah.
the good brands are going to be in the liquor distributors. And one can argue there wouldn't be a place in the world for someone like me, which is untrue
Mhm.
because my thing is not just about non alc. So it's really interesting trying to figure out what direction to go, Peggy.
Yeah.
I could become a non alcoholic distributor. I could become a consult for other NA shops
Mhm.
that need the business acumen and not just I got some lending. I love being sober and let's
Right.
go.
Yeah.
Because they're starting to shut down. There was one that had $17 million in investment and they didn't strategize correctly and they're going
Oh,
bankrupt.
wow.
So it's a really interesting time. Do I want to focus on going and doing corporate events? Do I want to work on doing more events in the store? Like too many choices
Yeah. Yeah.
versus, we're taught niche down, niche down, niche down. Okay, great. But what niche?
Yeah.
There's so much opportunity in that blue
Right.
ocean right now.
Right. Right. So, the doors are, like the foundation has been set. The borders have been put on a puzzle. This is kind of where your focus is. Now it's just figuring out, how clear does that puzzle get? Which pieces are going to be, and who knows, it might be a whole conglomeration of different things that make one
Yes,
puzzle, like a collage of pictures.
exactly. Well, I've been crystal clear since day one. Like the actual
Yep.
what's in my head, the end goal,
Yep.
it's how do I get to $50 million to build the end goal, right? Like what's the most strategic way? And here's the freaking thing. I can't make a wrong choice because you learn from everything.
Right. Right.
So it all shows up when it's supposed to, like, oh, okay, that's why I learned that hard lesson. That's why I didn't get what I wanted that time.
Right.
So
Right.
going into it that way is very helpful
Well, yeah,
to me.
because it's like, oh, well, what do I need to learn to take the next step?
Exactly.
And sometimes we think those are like, crap, I made a wrong turn. I just, delayed a whole bunch, and we can go down that negative road. But in reality, if we just take us out, like, what can I learn from this? and what can I take away? And oh yeah, what's the key point that's going to help me jump ahead for the next thing?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. It's funny. I was at, I call it band camp. That's not really what it's called. It's called Write Your Own Song Retreat. I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to go and with my favorite band. And I wrote my second song ever this past weekend. And I got to tell you, the first time I couldn't make things connect. And the
mhm,
second time I wrote about this journey about
mhm.
like, I want to freaking have my pissy pants on. I'm doing the work and I want to be like not positive solutions. I want to be negative vibes. And every time I tried to write a lyric about like from a victim lens or a poor me or whining, it was like, but this happened, but you learn this, but, and it turned into a very positive song, probably one of my best writings ever. And I was like, okay, and it's fun to sing too.
Well, yeah, because it's really coming from the heart. I mean, it's those are the best things that come from personal experience that you've had it. You can touch the emotions, you can feel it, and then share the other side of it. But you've been through so much with the personal development and growth and stuff. So our brains just kind of naturally go to what's the good out of it?
Yeah, I think that's it. It's almost like training on how to be trained for
Mhm.
life, or,
Yeah.
you know, I haven't thought about this until this exact thought, but if we were to go back and look in some of those rooms of people that were there in 2020, how many are still,
Hmm.
where are they now kind of
Right.
thing?
Yep. Yeah.
Who stayed true to learning, or was it just because, and granted, it was a healthy way to cope with
Oh
2020,
yeah. Oh yeah.
but how many gave up or didn't take the
Right.
learnings? Like the stats are pretty um scary when you
Yeah.
think about, small business and the kinds of things we're doing. So even more reason to celebrate your
Right.
success,
Right.
your 100 episodes in the last year and all the cool things.
So that's great. I mean, I think we could go on and on for this, but I just wanted to take a few minutes today to celebrate for my, 100th episode, but also to celebrate you and getting me to this point, for your ability to help me get this started and just being there for the last 4 years, just to somebody is like, hey, just to call and just chat with. And so thank you so much for helping me celebrate 1 year, 100th episode, looking back 1 year and looking forward to who knows what's going to happen, but it's all going to be good kind of day. So thank you so much, Bobbie, for joining me today for the celebration.
Well, thank you, Peggy. Maybe we have a date next year to do this again.
Hey, I'll put it in the calendar,
All right, sounds
but
good. And
let's not wait
congratulations.
until then to talk.
Of course not. Of course not. And by the way, like you did all the work. I was just like text in a book. That's all.
Hey,
You
but
did all
that's
the hustle.
sometimes all we need is just somebody to walk alongside of us that has
Yeah,
done it before and saying, hey, just here, do this, do this, do this. And then, yes, that's all we need to do is just to have somebody have a little handhold,
that's it.
reassurance.
Well, I love you, girl. I'm so proud of you.
Same here. I'm so proud of you, and I'm looking forward to everybody you getting all your non-alcoholic drinks out there. I know you can ship them, so I'll get your contact stuff, and we can put that in the show notes so people can get a hold of you and check out what you're doing on your brick and mortar and all the other fun things that you're doing.
Thanks, Peggy.
Thank you.